Hi, we are coming to you. Good evening. Welcome back to the Punchline. Now, the BBI debate continues to elicit mixed reactions across the country, and one of the factions that feel that their needs haven't necessarily been addressed is the church. And joining us tonight live via Zoom is Bishop Alfred Rotich from Kericho, just to shed more light on this particular document. Good evening, Bishop.
Good evening to you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for creating time. So let me just begin this interview by asking a very simple question, even before getting into the nitty-gritty bits of the BBI document. From where you're sitting from, is it the right time to alter certain clauses of the 2010 Constitution?
Well, I think every moment in our lives is a moment and an opportunity for us to reflect on what is it that is meant for us, especially in the Constitution. You remember before the promulgation, there was a division already, and you found that there were people, especially the church, that said no. But now that we have a report, BBI, these areas need to be looked at in depth so that there is no acrimony, but we will all have a consensus at the end of the day. And therefore, the opportunity is here for us to look at it, and not just people within the committee or the politicians, but government to facilitate a robust education, what we call civic education throughout the country, and even law experts to break it in a very small portion so that the entire communities of Kenya would make what we call a resolved decision that is informed. And therefore, I think it is an opportunity for us. Rather than politicking about it, we need to draw what we call a fraternity. Earlier on, you know, the church and the faith community were very instrumental in creating an environment for BBI. And much as we have what we call the handshake, which was a product of our prayers, all of us, and therefore, when the committee were put in place and they went in now to write the report, we feel, and it should be known by Kenyans, that now when the report is out, we have a bridge now, and we must walk it, and walk it by making a deeper reflection into the report.
Okay. All right, very well said, Bishop. Now, it's a good thing you've talked about the 2010 promulgation process, and we've seen one of your colleagues, and also among them, those other colleagues, for example, somebody like Bishop Mark, he's been on the forefront talking about the church's views not being taken into consideration even during the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, and right now they're seeing a similar trend with the BBI document. So what I'm trying to understand is, what are these specific concerns that the church have and they feel need to be addressed in this document?
The area of values, the ethos,
yes,
the area of protecting life, the area of also having the community called the faith community, especially the church, in a sense, looking at its what we call the internal laws that governs the churches. And I am sure in time we'll be able to meet with in our national, what you call dialogue conference,
yes,
and we'll be able to iron out all these matters that have emerged from the various units of the churches. It is indeed good and also an opportunity for each community, like the evangelicals, the Catholics, and the NCCK have voiced, and we are all in agreement that we should not be put on the sidelines. That yes, we must first of all look at our own African culture. We must also look at our own ethos. We must also look at our values, because Kenya, the constitution that we have is majorly, it was borrowed from America. And you know, the laissez-faire, the way they interpret things in that side of the country, of the world. And therefore, we need to have our own values put in the Constitution. And one of the things is like when we talk about protection of life, you realize in the ICPD 25, we were in the front line and inviting and also appealing to the government that they should not sign anything. We knew that they had sense that we are going to review the Constitution, and therefore they wanted to use the back side of the tunnel to bring in matters that we're going against our culture. And therefore, listening to the churches is very important. And it is necessary that we all listen to what we are all saying in matters values.
yes,
So I think also in the selection panel, like now, maybe later on we can talk about it, the politicized IBC, that when in the selection of the members of the panel, you remember in the last election, we were majorly involved in the selecting the committee
yes,
that went now to bring us the new elections. And therefore, we have seen, and I think His Excellency the President has been advised on the same, that there is something that is going to create a conflict. And I do not want now to discuss in depth. As I said again, matters that we had already discussed,
okay,
they are being channeled.
yes,
And I look forward to what we call a national conference where we can all be able to panel bit some of the things that we have seen there.
okay. Now, one thing,
Yeah.
Bishop, that we've already established in this whole conversation is that the church's input is very important. Even when you look back and date back to the previous generations, the churches have always contributed in governance. But right now, when we're looking at this BBI process, we are at a point of the signature collections. And when you hear other leaders talking about there's not necessarily room to alter certain parts of this document, how does that sit with you, even for a person who's hopeful that we're going to have a national conversation to see to it that all these concerns are addressed in the document?
And that is why we are appealing for a peaceful environment so that we can draw a consensus.
Yes.
You saw in our document as a church, and which has been lauded even by our interfaith brothers even today, that saying we want to work together and have a prophetic voice. And we cannot stop at the report, but we must always encourage a very cordial debate, not only to the politicians. And one of the bases that we need is to discuss in a soberly and with sobriety, so that we don't encourage what we call a permanent state of disagreements and confrontation. That will lead us into what we call a conflict. So I would encourage what the bishop said was, let us look at an expanded executive, the bloated parliament, the politicized IBC, areas of corruption, and also what we call, in a sense, a participation by all and sundry. So I am calling at this hour for what we call a fraternity so that we can forge on a consensus, have a national cohesion. And looking at also that we are challenged by COVID right now. So we should be able to prioritize. And as we look forward to a national conference, let's have sobriety. Let's not politicize the debate.
Okay, Bishop, now we've had religious leaders, not you in particular, but your colleagues, talk about a situation that in the event that their needs are not addressed, they're going to reject the document. So I'm trying to understand, what does a rejection from the church mean for such a particular document? What's the impact, say that your needs are not addressed and you reject the document? I'm trying to have a look at this rejection. How does it look like moving forward?
I am sure I've just come from a meeting the other day. We had a Zoom meeting, and we all with all the interfaith, and we are all saying that let's come to the round table and discuss what is it that might cause maybe a section of a community to say that we might reject it totally. I don't think that was the spur of the moment. Generally, we are in agreement because I'm a member of the dialogue reference group, and we play a very important role in shepherding them back. And therefore, we need to use this opportunity to marshal all the efforts and encourage the brothers and sisters from wherever they utter this to come to a consensus. And therefore, it's like a child who has cried, and it does not set the whole house in what we call in an anxiety mood. And therefore, I think the clarion call is that we are heading to our own meetings, and we have had 2 days ago a very fruitful Zoom meeting with all the faiths. And you saw our brothers today issued a statement in agreement or in support of what we had already mentioned. So I think we should walk from where we are now and look forward to a discussion that will bring us together. Yeah. Okay,
Bishop. Now, when you're talking about the BBI document, when the president officially launched this at the Bomas of Kenya, a big part of his speech was on national consensus, that every other single person's needed to be accommodated in this particular document. And when you're talking about different people who have their views to be accommodated here, there's a group of the people called Atheists, right? And they also came out and talked about what they felt they needed to be included in that document. And if you may just allow me to read this, they say that following part of the preamble of the Constitution, they wanted this to be expunged, this particular, "We the people of Kenya, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation." They want this to be expunged. Your thoughts on this?
You said, yes, when you read the statement by the president, he always wants a united nation, a united country. And I think that is a clarion call to build a united, healed, and reconciled nation. And he was opening the platform. He needed to say so as a president. And therefore, as a president, he's presiding over many millions of people. And therefore, he's saying BBI report is providing us an opportunity to discuss. And you remember he said, I was there, we are going to improve it, short of saying we need to add value. And therefore, concerns that have been already triggered for lack of mention in the report, we are drawing now, and I hope in the coming week we'll be able to discuss on certain areas of the Constitution or areas that needs to be addressed. And I am really waiting, and I have booked my ticket, therefore, looking forward so that all these issues that have emerged and have been triggered by the report will be handled in the what you call in the reflection by a greater community when we have a conference. So
Okay.
I will not. It is very important, as you know. I am in a dialogue reference group, and I do what we call negotiation, and therefore I would not want to injure the process.
Okay.
Yes, it has been voiced. Each party would say, yes, my issue has not been covered. And that is good. And I'm sure the Secretariat is noting. And when we come to our meetings, we'll be able now to table it and say, how do we handle ABCD?
Fair enough, Bishop. Thank you for your time this evening. All right, that was Bishop Alfred Rotich joining us live from Kericho, just shedding more light on the situation concerning the consensus of the BBI document. And that interview brings us to the very end of tonight's Punchline edition. My name is Alan Abinadab Owino, and I was stepping in for my colleague Ann Kiguta. Thank you for joining us, and do have yourselves a lovely evening. Oh, thank you very much for that. We hacked it. Oh, call ended.